This bill is an improvement, but it's not enough. I'm voting no, and I'm asking you to vote no. Madam Speaker, when you consider this bill, this proposal, I would ask you to look at three things. The first is the State v. Blake decision from our state Supreme Court that got us to this place. In State v. Blake, our state's High Court told us that it was the matter of scienter, of knowing, that was at issue in its consideration of our laws about the illegal possession and use of hard drugs. Now, the state Supreme Court told us, Madam Speaker, that it was that knowingness, knowing possession, that was the issue and the fault in our existing statute, and that if we repaired our existing law by inserting knowingly or knowing in the right spots, that the law as it stood would be constitutional. So, Madam Speaker, I believe the right response to the state Supreme Court's instruction and opinion and advice there was to do as they suggested. Instead, Madam Speaker, we have used their suggestion and their opinion about the constitutionality of our drug laws to open up our drug laws to a broad, wide, deep consideration of many issues. And Madam Speaker, I think that's why we have struggled to find the right Blake fix. We are adding more points in public policy than the state Supreme Court suggested that we deal with in remedying the issues it raised in State v. Blake. So, Madam Speaker, we need to return our focus to that matter of knowingly. And I think the proper response would be to restore our drug laws as they were pre-Blake, with the addition of knowingly as appropriate. The second spot, the second issue, the second group I would recommend that you consider when voting no on this bill would be to talk to frontline law enforcement. My law enforcement in my part of the state has made it clear that our laws, our public policy strategies have been a failure because they have lacked clarity, they have lacked certainty, and they have lacked strength. What we need in our state to effectively combat this scourge of opioid use, of illegal opioid use, has been that lack of clarity. What we need is clear, strong language for everyone, Madam Speaker, not just for the user, not just for the frontline cop, but for everyone. Because, Madam Speaker, what we need to maintain a civil society are clear rules of engagement, rules of the road, clear laws, Madam Speaker. The third consideration I would ask you to make when you vote no is the experience of users, both former and current. I've spoken with both from my area, Madam Speaker, and what they tell me is this, that opioid addiction is a powerful thing, and the only way to get through it, to get past it, to get over it, is for there to be powerful consequences. And that, Madam Speaker, is something we don't see, not just in this policy, not just in this proposal, but in our public policy in general about illegal drug use. I've spoken not just to recovering addicts, Madam Speaker. I've spoken to active users, and they have an interesting fatalism about what they're doing. They will acknowledge, the honest ones will acknowledge that they're slowly killing themselves, that this is a form of suicide. They know that, and yet they don't feel it in their bones, broken or not, that what they're doing has consequences not only to themselves, Madam Speaker, but to others, to children, to teenage kids, to other adults in their communities. We need to reestablish their connection to the other people who live where they live and the consequences, as we've heard, of their actions. Madam Speaker, aside from, I believe, needing to make the consequence for illegal use and possession a Class C felony, as it was before the Blake decision, I'm also concerned in this proposal about the loose language on some of these new residences, housing arrangements, hubs they're called in some of the sections, that in these places, children may be present. Now, we have improved some of that language from earlier versions of this proposal. Nevertheless, the language in this proposal still leaves open the possibility that a minor child may go into a living arrangement or even a temporary safe space and watch his or her parent or family member use illegally opioids. Madam Speaker, we have to draw the line on this. We have to make it that this often intergenerational problem of opioid addiction stops. We cannot enable that. We cannot empower that to continue. Madam Speaker, I am encouraged, in fact, by some of the users I've spoken with. They sometimes have the keenest and clearest understanding of what they're doing, not only that it will kill them, but what it will take to get away from that. And one of the things one of the users told me is you can't push a string. And I understand that that's a term often used in recovery. It's a good way to think of this issue. You can't push a string. And what this policy tries to do too much is push a string. Madam Speaker, people are moral creatures. They are intelligent creatures. They are thinking creatures. Even in their pain, even in their disassociation, they're still thinking and moral creatures. Ultimately, we need to encourage their agency so that they will make the best choices for themselves and the kids and the teenagers and their neighbors and everywhere they live. And we can do much better in that end than this policy will do. You can't push a string, Madam Speaker. You can only pull it through hell. And this policy doesn't do enough to create the clarity and strength and the language of our public policy so that we pull the string and get the people that we care about, that we love, that we want to get healthy through their hell and to a place where they can make better choices and live better lives. We've heard that we're going to be debating this issue going forward. Well, Madam Speaker, we need to do better now. We need to put this proposal aside and come up with a proposal that actually helps those most in pain, that does it with greater clarity, with greater precision, and greater strength. We need to be strong in our convictions. We need to be compassionate toward those who are suffering, but we need to give them a clearly delineated path to a better life. This bill isn't clear enough. This proposal isn't strong enough. This proposal doesn't do enough. We need to do more, Madam Speaker. Please vote no, and let's do better now.